The Iliad versus the Odyssey. The full story in order. Two epic poems, one enormous war, a 10-year journey home. The Iliad and the Odyssey aren't two separate stories that happen to share a setting. They are two halves of a single colossal saga, one continuous tale of war and its aftermath. And yet, almost no one actually knows both of them, told in the right order, from the true beginning to the very end. Most people know fragments, scenes, famous names. Today, we connect the entire Trojan saga into one clear, complete story, start to finish, so it finally makes sense as a whole. There are 4 distinct parts to this complete story. What happened before the war even began? The events of the Iliad itself? The crucial and often forgotten gap in between the two poems? And finally, the Odyssey. By the end of this, all the scattered pieces and famous names you've heard your whole life will finally lock together into one single clear picture. Take a mental note as we go, because this, the whole connected arc, from start to finish, is the true backbone of all of Greek mythology, the frame everything else hangs on. Let's start before the fighting ever began. Please like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Here's something that surprises people. The Iliad doesn't actually begin at the start of the war. It drops you right into the middle of a conflict that's already been raging for years. So to understand it, you first need the background. It all began with a golden apple and a contest of vanity between 3 goddesses. Judged by the Trojan prince Paris, his prize for choosing Aphrodite was Helen, the most beautiful woman in the world, and already the wife of a Greek king. Paris took her back to Troy, and that theft was the spark. The kings of Greece, bound by an old oath and led by the mighty Agamemnon, with the clever Odysseus among them, launched a massive expedition to take Helen back by force. 1,000 ships set sail across the Aegean. They laid siege to the great walled city of Troy. And that siege dragged on, brutal and unbroken, for 10 long years. It's in the 10th year of that siege that the Iliad finally opens. And here's another surprise that catches most people off guard. The Iliad doesn't cover the whole 10-year war, or even most of it. It covers just a few weeks near the very end of that final year. Its true subject is a single, tightly focused thing, the rage of one man, Achilles. Achilles is the greatest warrior the Greeks have, a near-invincible force of nature on the battlefield, the one man Troy truly fears. But early in the poem, he gets into a bitter, prideful quarrel with King Agamemnon over honor and a war prize that Agamemnon takes from him, and in his fury and wounded pride, he refuses to fight at all. He withdraws to his tent by the ships and sulks while his countrymen die. And without him, the Greek army is devastated, pushed back in disarray all the way to their beached ships, on the brink of total defeat. Then comes the turning point of the entire poem. Achilles' closest and dearest friend, Patroclus, unable to bear watching the slaughter any longer, borrows Achilles' own famous armor and charges into battle disguised as him, and is killed by the great Trojan prince Hector. Now Achilles is consumed by something far more dangerous than pride, grief and a burning thirst for vengeance. He finally returns to the war. He hunts down Hector, kills him in a famous one-on-one duel before the watching city walls, and in his overwhelming rage, drags the body behind his chariot. And then the Iliad simply ends, quietly, with Hector's solemn funeral. Notice carefully what the poem never even shows you. It does not show the fall of Troy. It does not show the death of Achilles himself. It captures only that one terrible, self-contained cycle of rage, from its bitter beginning to its mournful end. Now here's the gap between the two epics. And remarkably, some of the most famous events of the entire saga happen right here, in the space Homer's 2 poems leave empty. After the Iliad ends, Achilles himself is finally killed, struck in his one vulnerable spot, his heel, by an arrow. That's the origin of the phrase Achilles' heel we still use today. But even with their greatest hero dead, the war still doesn't end. And that's when Odysseus' most famous idea finally comes into play, the Trojan Horse. The Greeks build a giant hollow horse, hide their best soldiers inside, and trick the Trojans into hauling it within their own walls as a trophy. That night, the hidden soldiers slip out, open the gates, and Troy burns to the ground at last. A 10-year war ended by a single brilliant trick. And here's the strange part. This pivotal event, the Trojan Horse, is told fully in neither the Iliad nor the Odyssey. It lives in other, separate ancient poems and later works. Yet it's the hinge on which the whole saga turns. And now, at last, the Odyssey begins. The great war is finally over, and all the surviving Greek kings set sail for home. But for Odysseus, that journey home will stretch into another 10 years. Why? Because along the way he angers the gods, above all Poseidon, the god of the sea, and earns a terrible curse. He blinds the one-eyed giant, the son of Poseidon. He faces the hypnotic sirens, the sorceress Circe, the six-headed Scylla, and the ship-swallowing whirlpool. One by one, he loses every last one of his men to the sea and its horrors. Finally, alone, broken, and years older, he washes up on his home island of Ithaca, only to find his palace overrun with suitors and his loyal wife under siege. So he hides his identity one final time, proves who he truly is through the test of the great bow, and reclaims his home from the men who tried to steal it. The Odyssey ends where the whole saga has been quietly heading all along, with Odysseus reclaiming not just his home and his throne, but his very identity, the man he was before the war took everything. So there it is, the whole picture, finally in order. A contest of vanity started the war. The Iliad told the story of rage and its terrible cost. The Trojan Horse, in the gap between, ended the war. And the Odyssey told the long, hard story of the journey home. Two epics, but one single, continuous human story, the pride and horror of war, and the deep, aching longing for home that follows it. The Iliad shows us everything we lose in war. The Odyssey shows us what it takes to find our way back afterward. So which do you think is the greater story, the war or the return home? Tell me in the comments. And if you love these ancient myths, the next video is made just for you. Subscribe